Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a highly complex and frankly urgent situation that's developing right now. We're going to dive into why a recent calculated shift in Russian military tactics has brought Ukraine's air defense to a critical and honestly terrifying point of vulnerability. Through the data, on-the-ground reports, and strategic analysis we've gathered, we'll map out exactly how global supply chains, diplomatic shifts, and real battlefield conditions are colliding to create this crisis. Because a vulnerability thousands of miles away could absolutely reshape global security for all of us. We really have to start with the grim reality on the ground. Just recently, an overnight barrage of drone and missile strikes hit Kyiv and its surrounding satellite suburbs, specifically densely populated commuter cities like Brovary and Bucha. This attack killed at least 15 people and wounded dozens more, leaving rescue crews digging through the rubble well into the morning. Keep in mind, these aren't just isolated military targets. These are residential areas where tens of thousands of people live and commute every single day. To actually grasp what the atmosphere is like in the capital, we can look to political analyst Milan Lalic, who is based right there in Kyiv. He described a resilient yet deeply underslept city. He noted that because so many targets were hit, the air quality itself has severely deteriorated. Residents are literally choking on the smell of smoke from widespread fires. It's this intense sensory reminder of the relentless pressure the city is under night after night.
Which brings us to Section 1, a deadly shift in tactics.
The contrast in timelines here is staggering. Previously, attacks for these incredibly sophisticated multi-level events. You'd have a barrage of drones followed by missiles from different directions, then more drones, often dragging on for 10 hours or more. But those happened maybe once every 10 to 14 days. Now, the playbook has shifted dramatically. Russian forces are frequently launching sudden, targeted drops of ballistic missiles several times a week, sometimes almost every night. And they're doing this for one specific reason. They know Ukraine currently doesn't have an immediate remedy against them.
Because of this sudden shift, civilians are having to adapt instantly. There is a serious lack of concrete shelters built over ground, which, by the way, has sparked quite a bit of mounting criticism against Kyiv's mayor. So, when the sirens ring out, residents are basically left with very few options. They're forced to rely on what's known as the terrifying two walls rule. This is an emergency survival tactic where you just stay indoors and try to put at least 2 walls between yourself and the outside windows. It offers maximum, albeit still very weak, protection from the blasts. It's an intense daily reality just to survive in your own home.
Let's look at why that is in Section 2, 0% interception rate. Now, when we're talking about drones, Ukraine has actually developed a highly effective defense system. Based on official morning reports from their air defense, they're successfully intercepting roughly 85 to 90% of incoming drone threats. That's a massive success rate, and it really speaks to how proficient Ukrainian forces have become at neutralizing those slower-moving aerial targets. But when we pivot to ballistic missiles, it's a stark, devastating contrast. During that massive recent overnight attack, 24 ballistic missiles were fired at the region. The interception rate was literally 0%. Not a single one was shot down. This 100% penetration rate is exactly the weak point being ruthlessly exploited right now, which is directly leading to the casualties and fires we talked about earlier. To understand this total failure, we have to zoom out to Section 3, the global Patriot shortage. The primary defense against these ballistic weapons is the Patriot missile system, and the numbers here are honestly alarming. Recent reports indicate that the United States has depleted anywhere from 50 to 80% of its own supply of Patriot missile interceptors, largely because they've been heavily utilized for operations in the Gulf. Since the vast majority of these vital supplies originate from the U.S., this massive logistical drain means there simply aren't enough interceptors readily available to send over to Ukraine. And this just brilliantly illustrates how interconnected modern warfare actually is. This logistical drain on U.S. stockpiles doesn't happen in a vacuum. Analysts point out that shifting diplomatic stances, and that includes potential policy impacts involving figures like Donald Trump, directly affect this supply chain. These political and diplomatic variables heavily influence the security framework of the entire European continent. It's a clear reminder that decisions and deployments made on one side of the world immediately dictate the level of safety for civilians on the other.
So what's the fix? That brings us to Section 4, scrambling for defense solutions.
With UN monitors noting that civilian casualties are currently at their highest level since the full-scale invasion first began back in February of 2022, the scramble for a solution is incredibly urgent. But there's no single silver bullet here, no massive shipment of Patriot missiles just waiting in the wings. Instead, President Zelensky is pursuing 4 distinct partial solutions simultaneously to try and rebuild the nation's air defense grid.
The immediate boots-on-the-ground steps basically involve piecing together whatever resources they can find. Step 1 is essentially scavenging for small donations of PAT-3 interceptors from various allies. You know, if a country can't send 100, maybe they can send 5 or 7. The logic is that even one interceptor can save multiple lives. Step 2 is going on the offensive against the mobile platforms launching these weapons from inside Russia. To do that, Ukrainian delegations recently traveled to the U.S. to lobby Elon Musk for live satellite data, which is necessary to track moving targets in real time, though that effort was unsuccessful. Step 3 is a longer-term plea to the U.S., requesting the official licenses needed to actually start producing these Patriot interceptors domestically inside Ukraine.
On a broader regional scale, there's a 4th solution in the works known as Project Freya. This is a highly classified European anti-ballistic missile shield. From what we know, it involves 12 different European defense companies, with top-level meetings recently taking place in Paris. But here is the catch. While this shield could be absolutely vital for surviving the coming winter, analysts note that no technical details have leaked, and it's likely still several months away from being deployable on the battlefield. So it's definitely not an immediate fix for tonight's air raids.
And that leads us to our final takeaway in Section 5, a war of attrition. As air defenses are rigorously tested on both sides of the border, the source data shows this is very much a two-way exchange. While Russia executes daily bombardments on Kyiv and its suburbs, Ukrainian forces are actively retaliating. Recently, they launched a massive 107 drone counterstrike deep into Russian territory. Specifically targeting the Tula region, falling debris sparked substantial fires at commercial facilities belonging to the e-commerce firm Wildberries. It's a constant, high-stakes exchange of aerial power.
As our sources on the ground emphasize, this conflict has fundamentally evolved. Milan Milish summarized it perfectly, saying, "War of attrition is all about time and patience. Whoever manages to outlast their rivals just for one single day will win it." The incredible flexibility of the Ukrainian people to adapt to everyday logistical nightmares is being tested against a relentless barrage. Ultimately, the victor won't necessarily be the one with the single most advanced weapon, but the one who manages to hold on just one day longer. We're looking at a localized battlefield whose fate is intimately tied to the inventory levels of global superpowers. So, I want to leave you with this critical question to think about. In a brutal war of attrition, when daily survival relies almost entirely on a dwindling global supply of interceptors and the shifting winds of international diplomacy, who will truly manage to hold out just one day longer? Thanks for joining me on this explainer.